Have you ever considered that you're not actually lazy? What if everything you've ever believed about your lack of motivation, your inconsistency, your failure to follow through was simply a misdiagnosis? What if the war you've been fighting isn't a sign of something broken, but of something powerful inside you that's been left dormant, untrained, waiting to be unleashed? You see, I've spent years studying the lives of the men who shaped history, men who didn't inherit discipline, they constructed it. Men like Andrew Carnegie, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Charles Schwab. They weren't driven by fleeting feelings. They weren't motivated in the beginning. They weren't even the men we now remember, not at first. They became those men by changing one critical thing, not their talent, not their intelligence, not their circumstances. They changed their identity, and that's exactly what we're going to do, starting right now. This isn't just another motivational message. This is a system override. Because if you've ever looked at your dreams and felt like they were too big for your current habits, if you've ever said, "I know I was built for more, but couldn't seem to move," this was created for you. I'm not here to entertain. I'm here to help you upgrade the operating system that's been keeping you stuck, to rewire it so that laziness no longer feels familiar and consistent action becomes your default, so that discipline becomes second nature. And it begins with one thing: belief. Not belief in your potential, belief that your current behavior isn't permanent. It's programmable. The subconscious mind, your inner autopilot, controls the vast majority of your actions. And it doesn't listen to your desires. It listens to your repetition, to your beliefs, to the story you repeat to yourself every day. Until that internal story changes, your life will stay in contradiction. Big dreams, minimal action, loud ambition, quiet follow-through. But today, we cut the contradiction. Today, we initiate alignment. You stop calling yourself lazy. You begin speaking like a man who's been misjudged, not by others, but by himself. You were never lazy. You were misaligned, so don't just listen. Be fully here, not half in, not in the background, present, because laziness doesn't disappear. With hype, it gets replaced by habit, by structure, by identity, and that's what we build starting now. Let's make something clear. Laziness is not a character defect. It's a pattern, a message, a signal from your mind and body telling you that your current direction lacks clarity, power, or emotional connection. And the most dangerous part, most men never question it. They accept it. They wear it like a name tag. I'm just lazy. But that's a lie. Laziness isn't your nature. It's a short circuit in your inner system, a temporary detour. And the moment you understand this, you realize you can override it. You can retrain the patterns forged by years of hesitation, distraction, and outdated beliefs. And when you do, you become unstoppable, not because you wait to feel ready, but because you act whether you feel it or not. Let's go back to the greats. Carnegie didn't start disciplined. He started broke. He was a bobbin boy in a cotton mill, working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, earning barely $1. He wasn't inspired by thread and fabric, but he was moved by ambition. And even when he was exhausted and invisible, he kept moving. Because movement opens doors. Repetition builds identity. Henry Ford didn't emerge from the womb an innovator. He was a farmer's son, not a factory boss, but he saw a future that others couldn't. He attached himself to that vision and acted daily, without waiting for motivation. He built discipline like machinery. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. His point: belief generates action, not the other way around. Laziness, then, is not the absence of effort. It's the absence of meaningful alignment. When your subconscious doesn't believe your mission matters, it shuts you down, not to hurt you, but to protect you from wasting energy on something it doesn't trust. That's why you don't conquer laziness by pushing harder. You remove the faulty story behind it, Most ambitious men who struggle with laziness are not broken. They're systemless. They dream with fire, but act on default. They admire discipline, but never build it into themselves. And here's the truth. No one will install it for you. Not a book, not an app, not a coach. Because discipline isn't something you find. It's something you forge. Through repetition. Through the decision to reject the old identity and adopt a new one. Your subconscious listens for commands. Say, I'm not consistent, and it agrees. Say, I always give up, and it complies. Say, I'm lazy, but I want to change. And it hears, I'm lazy, and installs that belief even deeper. But what happens if you speak differently? What if you said, I am the kind of man who executes no matter how he feels? What if you declared, I do the hard things daily because my mission demands it? What if you removed your mood from the equation and said, I move because I said I would? Your subconscious would align with your command. Because repeated belief, spoken with emotion, rewrites the script. This isn't fantasy, this is psychology. This is the foundation of autosuggestion, what Napoleon Hill wrote about in Think and Grow Rich, what every high performer lives by. Edison didn't create the light bulb by waiting to feel motivated. He failed over 10,000 times, but every failure reinforced his identity. He believed he was the man to bring light to the world, and his subconscious followed. You must do the same, not with 10 new habits, not with another online plan. With one decision. I will never again call myself lazy. Say it aloud. I'm not lazy, I am untrained, and I train daily. I am not inconsistent, I'm becoming the man who follows through. I am not a quitter, I build power through repetition. Repeat it until your inner voice shifts. Because laziness isn't your identity, it's your current programming. And programming can be rewritten. Take Charles Schwab, steel tycoon, apprentice of Carnegie. He said a man's greatest power is his ability to choose and act without hesitation. He wasn't the smartest in the room, but he moved, he acted, he repeated. While others paused, he built momentum. He trained his system to move before doubt, before delay, before fatigue had time to speak, and that made him irreplaceable. So I ask you again, what if your laziness isn't a flaw? What if it's a signal? A request from within for a new identity, a new emotional why, a new system of repetition, because the man who repeats power becomes it. You just have to start writing the new script, not tomorrow, now. Every morning, speak your new identity aloud, even if it still feels like fiction. Every time the word lazy echoes in your mind, interrupt it with urgency. That's not who I am anymore. Each night, don't reflect on how you felt. Reflect on what you did, because that's what defines a builder. A builder doesn't consult his emotions for permission. He moves because his identity requires it. This is the process of rewriting the story. Kill the old narrative, feed the new one. Repeat it until discipline becomes the reflex, not the exception. Now let's go further. Let's construct the next layer of your identity, the one rooted in execution, not emotion. No man who ever changed the world relied on feelings. He built on structure. He created systems that asked not, how do I feel, but what must I do? This is where ambition gets trapped, when it waits for the fire of inspiration before taking action. But hear me clearly, discipline is not an emotion, it is a ritual. And once that ritual is in place, movement is no longer a struggle, it's inevitable. Let's examine the lives of those who executed at the highest level. Consider Henry Ford. He didn't change history because he woke up energized. He changed it because he built a machine, a system that moved regardless of how anyone felt. The assembly line wasn't born from a good mood, but from a refusal to depend on one. Ford treated his own mind like a factory, repetitive, efficient, relentless. Success wasn't a question, it was a consequence. This is the identity you must forge. Don't say, I want more discipline. Say, I'm building a system where discipline runs automatically, because waiting to want it is how men stay average, broke, paralyzed, and excused. Let me give you another name, Thomas Edison. Do you think he felt like conducting thousands of failed experiments? He didn't do it because of daily motivation. He did it because he had a structure, a lab, a process, a rhythm. He documented, he tested, he adapted. He wasn't guided by how he felt. He was governed by process. Genius doesn't bloom from inspiration. It rises through iteration. Let's break it down further. Discipline, matos, energy, paputals, clarity, plus structure. Energy is your health, your sleep, your food, your focus. Clarity is your mission. Stop chasing goals you don't believe in. Structure is your trigger system, the thing that removes thinking from the equation. Want to stop being lazy? Stop waiting for motivation to show up mid-scroll. Build a morning ritual. Before the world even wakes, initiate your protocol. Wake up. Don't check your phone. Speak your identity out loud. I am the man who acts before emotion interferes. Do something difficult immediately, not for outcome, for proof. Because every move reprograms. Every time you act without feeling like it, you kill the old. Narrative. Every time you declare your identity, you bury doubt. Every time you show up silently, you embed power. That's the foundation. Now let's bring in Charles M. Schwab, Carnegie's right hand, not because he was the smartest, but because he was consistent. He walked the factory floors daily. He gave praise. He enforced standards. He paid attention, not once, but over and over. Repetition made him powerful. That's your task now. Stop labeling yourself lazy. You're not lazy, you're in training. You're not waiting, you're executing because your mission demands it. Install this belief. Discipline is not my mood, it's my mechanism. Repeat it until it governs you, because the man who doesn't ask how he feels, but moves anyway, becomes unstoppable. Here's the warning no one tells you. If you don't design your structure, the world will design one for you. A structure of reaction, distraction, and default. One built from morning scrolls, urgency without direction, deadlines met by panic. That's the system most men drown in. But you are exiting that life. You are building something new, something strong. And here is your law of execution. Do it daily. Do it first. Do it anyway. Daily means until it becomes part of you. First means before the noise. Anyway means no matter how you feel. Try it for 1 week. Your mind will start to bend. Try it for 1 month. Your identity will start to shift. Do it for 90 days, and the version of you that clung to comfort won't survive. He'll be replaced by a builder, a decision maker, a man of movement. And now we go deeper into the rewiring of your reward system. You are not lazy. You are well-conditioned, trained to feel good when avoiding the hard thing, trained to experience relief after delay, to feel a hit of dopamine when you scroll, snooze, postpone, and what gets repeated with emotion becomes installed. So let's rewire your rewards. You don't need more willpower, you need new wiring. Most men reward avoidance. You skip the workout and feel peace. You delay the project and feel ease. That's false success, and it's destroying your identity. Because what you feel safe in, you will stay in. But you weren't built for comfort. You were built for conquest. The real question isn't how do I get motivated? It's how do I change what I celebrate? Let me tell you about Andrew Carnegie. He understood this truth before science could explain it. When I asked him how he led thousands, he said, "Men move not just for money, but for the man they believe they are becoming." He rewarded identity, not just output. That's what you must do now. Stop rewarding comfort. Start praising courage. Stop applauding ease. Start honoring initiation. Every time you move before you're ready, that's the new dopamine. Every time you act without applause, that's your new reward. And don't just wait to feel proud, ritualize it, say it out loud. That's who I am now. Write it down. Today, I starve the old me. Smile after resistance. This is the fire forging my future. You think this is small. Your subconscious doesn't. It craves reinforcement. Every action must be followed by identity. Let me show you how Edison used this. After each failure, he didn't say, "I'm failing." He said, "I found another way that won't work." That's how you reframe failure as fuel. He never burned out because he celebrated process, not just outcome. And now, that's what you must do. You're not working harder. You're rewiring faster. You are flipping the script, linking pain to laziness and pleasure to execution. Use this simple rewiring tool. Every time you do something you'd normally avoid, like a workout, a call, or writing, pause after you finish. Put your hand on your chest. Say one sentence. This is my new pattern. Why? Because your identity is softest after you act. Your subconscious listens most right after you've moved. That's the moment to seal the transformation. Now let's revisit Charles M. Schwab. At 35, he led U.S. Steel, thousands of men, billions in responsibility. He wasn't the smartest. He was the most consistent. He loved the weight of leadership. He associated reward with responsibility. When things got hard, he didn't back down. He leaned in, and afterward, he'd reinforce it. I was born to lead. That sentence turned pressure into identity. Now it's your turn. No more, I'm lazy. That version of you is obsolete. From now on, your ritual is this. I do the hard thing. I move first. I choose growth over comfort. Say it after the workout. Say it after the resistance. Say it after you execute, because you are not waiting for greatness. You are building it. And remember this, every time you delay, you strengthen your old self. Every time you act, you starve it. So choose wisely. Now let's dive even deeper into how to end the excuse loop permanently and replace it with decisive movement. Now we build the layer that separates the uncommon from the unstoppable, the ability to act under pressure, not just to move when it's silent, but to move when the noise is deafening. Because here's the truth, success is not built in ideal conditions. It is forged in chaos. And if you wait for calm, you will drown in hesitation. The men who build legacies are not those who avoid pressure. They train for it. They build mental armor, so when the weight comes, they don't collapse. They focus. Think of a firefighter. He doesn't wait until the fire is gone to move. He moves into it because his preparation is stronger than the panic. That's what you need now. Not more calm, but more capacity under fire. And capacity comes from challenge. You don't grow by escaping the hard days. You grow by embracing them. The difficult season is not a punishment. It is your proving ground. It's where false identities are stripped and real conviction is born. It's where your will is tested, not just your words. Because anyone can speak strength, but only the disciplined can live it when their world is shaking. Let's bring in another example. Take Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison, 27 years stripped of power, freedom, and comfort. But when he emerged, he didn't come out bitter. He came out ready. Why? Because he had trained his identity in isolation. He didn't wait for approval to grow. He built in silence. That is what you must do. Train so deeply in obscurity that, when the light finds you, you're already prepared to lead. Because most men think the spotlight will make them rise, but the spotlight only reveals what was built in the dark. If you cannot build when no one sees you, you will collapse when everyone does. So stop begging for recognition. Stop chasing applause. Start building systems so solid they produce fruit with or without witnesses. That is real execution. Consistency, without visibility. Say it. I move because I must, not because I'm watched. Repeat that every morning until it's no longer a sentence. It's your operating system. Now let us deal with the enemy called comparison. One of the most toxic patterns of the modern man is measuring progress by other people's timelines. But, hear this clearly, comparison is a thief with a smooth voice. It will make you doubt your harvest just because someone else is planting something different. It will distract you from what matters most, your own mission. So let us rewire that. Now, from this point forward, you do not chase pace, you chase alignment. The speed of another man is irrelevant if it takes you off your path. Say this: I move at the speed of alignment. That sentence will keep you focused when distraction tries to seduce you. And now, let's attack another core lie. I need to feel certain before I move. No, certainty is not a requirement of execution. Commitment is. Certainty is a byproduct of repeated courage. You act, you learn, you refine. You do not wait to be sure. You build sure by showing up through doubt. Let me give you a principle I call the confidence paradox. The more you wait to be confident, the longer you delay the experiences that would build it. Confidence is not a prerequisite, it's a reward. The only way to earn it is to act without it. So start showing up underprepared. Start speaking before your voice is perfect. Start building before you fully believe in yourself. Because that's the only way belief grows, not in planning, but in proving. Let me bring in another giant, Theodore Roosevelt. The man had asthma, poor eyesight, and a fragile body in youth. But instead of surrendering to weakness, he trained it out of himself. He became a boxer, a soldier, a leader of men, not because he was born strong, but because he refused to. Let frailty define him. He said, do what you can with what you have where you are. And he lived it. That's your mantra now. Not I need more, but I use what I have. Because greatness is not built on resources. It's built on resourcefulness. If you only move when you're fully equipped, you'll never start. But if you move with what's in your hand, you'll unlock what's been waiting for your action. Now let's go deeper into this. Momentum is more powerful than motivation. Momentum is not a feeling, it's a force. And it doesn't begin with inspiration. It begins with a single obedient act. Something small, something now, that email, that call, that rep, that line. Movement builds belief and belief builds identity. Say this now. I trust momentum more than mood. That's not just a line, it's a discipline. Start building your life around triggers, not emotions. Build systems that ignore your internal weather and respond only to your mission. The future belongs to those who act without needing to be in the mood. Because moods change, purpose does not. You are now in the arena. And in this arena, the only thing that matters is motion. Not thoughts, not intentions. Moves. And let me leave you with this. The man who wins is not the one with the most certainty, time, talent, or cheerleaders. It's the man who moves anyway. So now, move. There comes a moment in every man's journey when he must stop asking, what will happen if I try? And start declaring, this is what I was born to do. That's not arrogance, it's alignment. Because indecision is not humility. It is paralysis disguised as caution. Let's be clear. The war you're fighting is not just outside you, it's internal. It's the battle between who you were and who you are becoming. And that's the most vicious war. Because it happens. In silence, nobody hears it, nobody cheers for you. Nobody claps when you deny the old version of yourself one more time in the dark. But that fight, that's where champions are formed. You want to know what separates the temporary from the timeless? It's not skill. It's not talent. It's conviction. A man with conviction doesn't need consensus. He doesn't need agreement. He doesn't even need ideal circumstances. He just needs a reason bigger than his feelings, because feelings are fragile. But purpose is fire. It burns long after motivation dies. You don't need more feelings. You need more fire. And to find it, you must stop chasing comfort. Comfort is the silent killer of kings. It whispers, "You've done enough." It tells you, "No one else is going this far. Why should you?" But you weren't made to match their pace. You were called to raise the standard. That's why the discomfort hits so hard, because you're stretching into territory your bloodline has never touched. You're not just changing your life, you're breaking generational limitations. And that level of breakthrough doesn't come cheaply. There's a price for greatness. And the question is, are you willing to pay it in silence? Because real builders don't announce. They construct quietly, faithfully, when no one sees. While others are distracted by platforms, they're sharpening foundations. Because a house without foundation looks good on the outside until the storm comes. And it always comes. And when it does, the world will see who built for wind and who built for witnesses. You build for wind, for weight, for storms. Let's talk about that storm. Most people run from it, but the storm is your proving ground. Stop seeing it as punishment and start seeing it as preparation. Ask any soldier. They don't become elite during peace. They become elite in war. And your war is not a sign you're off track. It's a sign you're too close to breakthrough for the enemy to stay quiet. That pressure you feel? That's not coincidence. That's the resistance that comes before. The rise. You're being pressed because something is being produced in you. A deeper trust, a refined focus, a steel spine. Heaven doesn't promote fragile men. It promotes forged ones. And the only way to be forged is through fire. So embrace the fire, embrace the season that feels heavy. Let it burn off the parts of you that weren't made for where you're going. Let it refine your posture. Let it remind you, you're not just aiming for results. You're being reconstructed for royalty. Now listen, no more negotiating with laziness, no more entertaining distraction, no more giving oxygen to old excuses. Your calling is too serious for delay. This is not the season to be casual, it's the season to be consecrated. Consecration means cutting off what slows you, saying no to what dilutes you, walking away from good so you can pursue God. This is about more than discipline. This is about devotion. Devotion to the version of you that God has already seen, even when no one else has. You think you're behind? You're not behind. You're in process. You think it's taking too long. It's taking as long as it needs to build something that lasts. Don't rush the construction. Rushed buildings collapse. But anchored buildings, they stand through generations. Let's build you into something anchored. So what does that take? It takes obedience without evidence, action without applause, movement without metrics, because this kind of man doesn't track progress with likes. He tracks it with legacy. He's not chasing attention. He's building a future. And every step he takes in private is a seed for public impact. And that's what you're doing now. You're not wasting time. You're planting it. Keep going. Even when it's invisible, even when it's slow, even when you feel unseen and underwhelming. Because you're not working for approval. You're working from identity. You already are who you need to be. Now it's time to live like it. Let's leave behind the version of you that needed to be convinced. From this moment on, you don't need another sign. You are the sign. Your consistency is the miracle. Your faithfulness is the answer. You are what future generations will point to and say, "He didn't quit." So don't. Hold the line. Do the work. Trust the process. And remember, you weren't made to blend in. You were built to build what doesn't yet exist. There's a reason it's been hard lately. It's not because you're weak. It's not because you're broken. It's because heaven is trusting you with weight, the kind of weight that only a few can carry, the kind of weight that doesn't come with applause, but with responsibility. You keep asking why it feels so heavy, but what if the weight isn't punishment? What if it's proof that God considers you strong enough to carry something eternal? You see, the people with easy lives rarely build anything that lasts. But those who have been crushed, those who have bled in silence, those who have walked through seasons of stretching, those are the ones heaven uses to shift generations. And that's you. You weren't made to repeat patterns. You were made to break them. You weren't born to recycle pain. You were born to redeem it. But to do that, you'll have to be more committed to the vision than to your comfort, more loyal to the call than to the applause. Because greatness is never born in comfort zones, it's forged in consecration. And the truth is, you're being set apart. That's why certain things stopped working. That's why some relationships felt like they were ripped from your life. That's why doors that looked perfect suddenly slammed shut. It wasn't rejection, it was protection. Because when you're called, you don't get to live like everyone else. You don't get to carry what they carry. You're not common. You're consecrated. Don't you dare try to blend in with a world you were sent to transform. The enemy doesn't attack potential that's passive. He attacks destiny that's dangerous. And the fact that you've been facing resistance, that's a sign you've become a threat. So stop doubting the call on your life just because the warfare got intense. Diamonds aren't formed in peace. They're formed under pressure, so keep your head up, keep your heart clean, and keep your eyes fixed forward, because what God is doing through you will outlive you. Your obedience today is laying the bricks for someone else's breakthrough tomorrow. This isn't just about your success, it's about your legacy. And legacy isn't measured by how much you gain, but by how much you give and what remains long after you're gone. Let that sink in. You are building something eternal. And yes, it's taking time, but of course it is. Anything holy takes time. Don't despise the process just because it doesn't move at your pace. God is not in a hurry when He's building something sacred. He's not trying to meet your timeline. He's building something that will last into eternity. That's why it feels slow. That's why you're still hidden. Because God is not interested in promoting men who have not been processed. A platform given too soon becomes a prison. But when you wait on Him, when you trust Him in the shadows, He raises you up with roots that can withstand any storm. So don't run from the process. Honor it, embrace it, grow in it. Let it refine you. Let it cleanse the parts of you that fame would have exposed. Let it prepare you for the weight of what's ahead, because make no mistake, something is coming. A moment is being prepared where all the pressure, all the fire, all the long nights and lonely prayers will make sense. And when that moment arrives, you won't have to fight for it. You'll be ready for it. You won't need to prove yourself. Your fruit will speak for you, but you don't wait to become faithful when the door opens. You become faithful now, when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when it's just you, your calling, and your Creator. That is where the real work begins. That is where foundations are laid. That is where your future is formed, not in the spotlight but in the shadows. And while others chase influence, you chase intimacy, because you don't want to be impressive. You want to be impactful. And impact requires depth. Depth requires time. And time requires trust. So trust Him when it's slow. Trust Him when you're tired. Trust Him when you feel forgotten. Trust Him when it looks like everyone else is accelerating. Because this story isn't theirs, it's yours. And yours is a story heaven is still writing. You're not late, you're not behind, you're not forgotten. What you are is in training. Because when God gets ready to use someone, He doesn't send them straight to the spotlight. He sends them to the secret place. He hides them, shapes them, strips them of everything superficial, not to punish, but to prepare, not to delay, but to develop. He knows exactly what you need to walk in what He's called you to do. And sometimes that means letting the vision sit in the soil before it ever touches the sky. Seeds don't sprout in public. They break open in the dark, and that's where you are right now, in the holy tension between the promise and the manifestation, in the middle space where God is proving your posture, testing your motives, and anchoring your soul, because He's not just building your dreams, He's building your character. And if your character can't carry your calling, the whole thing crumbles. That's why this season is quiet. That's why doors are taking longer to open, because God isn't interested in launching something that's shallow. He's not raising up performers. He's raising up pillars, people who are unshaken, people who have been through the fire and didn't lose their faith, people who've been humbled enough to know the spotlight doesn't define them. The secret place does. So if you feel hidden, good. That's where the oil flows. That's where he teaches you to worship without a stage, to believe without applause, to pray without a microphone, to endure without needing validation. And in doing so, he makes sure that when he does reveal you, you won't be addicted to the crowd. You'll be anchored in conviction. God is not just preparing the stage for you, he's preparing you for the stage, because this next season will not be sustained by talent. It will be sustained by depth, and depth is only formed in the places no one sees. So if you're there, don't rush it, don't curse it, don't try to escape it, embrace it, because what's being formed in the shadows will one day be the very thing that holds you steady in the light. And when that moment comes, and it will come, everything will look like it happened suddenly. But it wasn't sudden. It was sacred. Every tear you cried, every night you stayed faithful, every time you obeyed without results, every moment you said yes without clarity, none of it was wasted. Heaven saw it. God collected it. And he's about to redeem it, because he's not just the God of the promise, he's the God of the process. And the process is holy, so walk it out, not with fear, but with faith, with your head high and your heart anchored. This is not the end. This is the beginning. The stirring in your spirit, the restlessness in your bones, the desire for more that won't leave you alone. That's heaven calling. That's destiny knocking. That's purpose rising. You weren't born to live small. You weren't born to settle for survival. You were born to advance the kingdom. So take the pressure off yourself to be perfect. God never asked for perfection. He asked for obedience. He asked for your yes, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs you, even when it doesn't make sense. Because obedience in obscurity will always lead to influence with integrity. Let him finish what he started in you. You're not done. You're just getting started. And this next chapter will not be defined by what left, what failed, or what hurt. You deal, but by the glory that follows surrender. The weight of heaven is coming upon you, not to crush you, but to commission you. So rise. There is still territory to take, still lives to touch, still purpose to walk out, still fire to carry, and someone on the other side of your obedience is waiting for you to become everything God called you to be. This is your moment. Now go and grow in it. Thomas Edison didn't stumble upon the light bulb by accident. He encountered failure more than 10,000 times on his way to success. But he didn't quit. He didn't stall. He recorded, he adapted, he tried again. When asked about those failed attempts, he responded, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's not the voice of a mere thinker. That's the conviction of a builder, of a man who understood that forward motion beats flawless plans. And now you must choose. What kind of man are you becoming? The one who fantasizes about strength, or the one who walks in it, even before he feels qualified? Let me speak directly to your inner being. You don't need more time. You need fewer justifications. You don't need more certainty. You need consistent action, and repeated action becomes identity. So start here. Each morning, identify the 3 most essential actions for that day. Not the convenient ones, but the hard ones, the ones you avoid, the ones that stretch you. Then commit not to finishing them perfectly, but to starting each within 2 minutes of when you said you would. Do this daily, and a transformation begins. Your mind stops negotiating and starts obeying. You stop becoming the man who talks and become the man who moves. This is your new code. I act swiftly. I trust movement over emotion. I defeat delay with discipline. And the more often you repeat this behavior, the less space fear has to speak. Understand. This principle, hesitation is a habit, and like all habits, it becomes identity. But so does execution. There is a moment in every man's life when he must stop debating with his past self, not tenderly, but with fire. Because if you always keep an exit door to the man you used to be, the one who procrastinated, who feared, who wavered, then change will always remain optional, and what is optional dies in time. The world changers I've studied, the architects of new industries, the leaders of movements, they didn't merely step into new futures. They cut ties with the past, not because the past was wicked, but because it was no longer useful. They made progress the only possible outcome. Let me tell you about Hernán Cortés, the Spanish conquistador. When he landed in Mexico with a vastly outnumbered force, he knew that doubt would be their downfall. So, what did he do? He ordered. His ships burned. He removed the possibility of retreat. There was only forward, only victory, only destiny. That is the mindset you must carry, because if you leave even a sliver of connection to the old version of yourself, it will whisper to you. And soon you'll crawl back to the snooze button, back to comfort, back to justification, until excuses become who you are again. But when you make a declaration in action, I'm not that man anymore, and when you follow it with destruction of the things that used to bind you, you remove the option to go backward. That's how Carnegie rose. Before becoming one of America's wealthiest men, he worked long hours for low wages as a messenger boy. But even in poverty, he studied, he read, he wrote down his vision. He repeated his life's mission daily until mediocrity became unbearable. He grew beyond poverty in spirit before his wealth caught up, and when opportunity knocked, he didn't pause. He didn't ask if he was ready. He moved, he built. He aligned with people who sharpened him, but perhaps most crucially, he stopped giving time to people who kept him tethered to the person he no longer wished to be. That is burning the bridge. Now ask yourself, what still links you to the man you're leaving behind? Is it conversations with people who mock growth? Habits like aimless scrolling or inconsistent discipline? Is it the identity you keep repeating to yourself? I'm just not that driven. I've always struggled with consistency. Then burn it, not in rage, but in resolve. Tell yourself that version of me no longer has a vote. Henry Ford once said, "If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got." That's not a catchy quote. It's a law of life, and the only way to escape that law is to eliminate the option to repeat. Start today. I call it the bridge-burning ritual. Write down 3 things you will no longer allow in your life, not vague concepts, concrete behaviors like, I no longer hit the snooze button, I no longer consume content that wastes my time, I no longer explain my dreams to people who belittle them, write them in ink. Read them out loud daily, then destroy the triggers that tempt your regression. Delete the apps, cancel the distractions. Cut ties with those who want the old you. This isn't hatred, it's clarity. This is how Edison operated. He didn't wait for lightning to strike. He created an environment that produced breakthroughs. His labs were filled with scraps, failures, systems, but never excuses. His genius wasn't spontaneous, it was systematic. He repeated his process, knowing each failure brought him closer to the truth. Now ask yourself, do you have a system? Or do you rely on inspiration to find you? Because if your days are unstructured, so will your results be. But if your days are built on rituals, anchored in purpose, transformation becomes automatic. Let's revisit Henry Ford. He didn't revolutionize the automobile by thinking bigger. He did it by inventing the assembly line. He understood. Break progress into tiny, repeatable steps, and you scale excellence. Your habits are your assembly line, your morning routine, your nightly wind-down, your hourly focus. It's not about perfection. It's about predictability, creating an environment where winning becomes inevitable. But here's the critical part. Build rituals not just to reflect your goals, but to reflect your identity. If you want to be focused, act like a focused man. If you want discipline, automate your life. Wear the same outfit, eat the same meals, plan your next day before it begins. Save your willpower for what matters most. Charles M. Schwab, mentored by Carnegie, kept a small notebook. In it, he listed the 6 most important tasks each night before bed, in order, no fluff. This method, given to him by Ivy Lee, reshaped his productivity and that of his entire company. You don't need motivation. You need rhythm. You need structure. You need to become the kind of man who acts before he feels like it. Say this now. I burn the bridge to my old life. I no longer consult my comfort. I only move forward. I am sealed by decision. Now act. Let this be your fire, because once you remove the option of retreat, the only direction left is greatness. Because Schwab stopped depending on fleeting motivation, he outsourced his memory to ritual. That simple notebook made his decisions automatic. No mental chaos, no endless debate, just action. And you can do the same. Let's build your machine now. Here's the framework. First, a morning ritual. Command your day before it commands you. Wake up and boldly speak your definite purpose aloud. Read or listen for 5 to 10 minutes to something that reinforces who you are becoming. Move your body. It doesn't have to be intense, just enough to spark momentum. Visualize your biggest win of the day. Emotionally commit to completing it. Next, 2 focus blocks. Carve out sacred time. Set a 90-minute timer, no distractions, 1 task only. Then take a short break. Breathe deeply. Hydrate. Reset. Repeat this rhythm up to 3 times daily. That's 4.5 hours of pure, undistracted effort, more than most produce in a week. Finally, an evening ritual. Seal your identity. Reflect on what you accomplished. Write down what you will do tomorrow. Speak your affirmations, the same ones we have been embedding. Play a section of this speech before sleep to rewire your subconscious while you rest. You might say, "That sounds boring." Good. That's exactly why it works. Power is not born from novelty. It's born from certainty. Your subconscious craves stability, not stimulation. When it knows with absolute consistency what your day looks like, it stops sabotaging you. It starts trusting you. Remember, identity is not shaped by one-time events. It's forged by what you rehearse. Every morning you rise early, you rehearse power. Every focus block you complete, you rehearse discipline. Every night you speak belief, you rehearse faith. Eventually, repetition runs so deep that you stop trying and start being. That shift, that moment, is when the machine takes control. This isn't about becoming robotic. It's about becoming reliable to your future. Let's return to Andrew Carnegie. He once said, "You cannot push anyone up a ladder unless he is willing to climb a little himself," meaning no one else will do your work for you. But once you build a structure, design your ladder and climb daily, your rise becomes inevitable. So now I ask you, where is your machine? What rituals shape your days? What non-negotiables are building your identity? You don't need to do more. You need to do the right things every day until your results are no longer a question. Say it aloud. I build machines that produce power. My rituals reflect who I am becoming. My success is not a surprise. It is a system. Now, let's dive deeper into rewiring. The greatest tragedy of modern man is not lack of ambition. It's allowing too many voices to clutter his mind. He trades depth for noise, chases movement instead of meaning. His attention divides, his results dilute. Let me be clear. The man who succeeds is not the man who tries everything. It is the man who chooses one thing and does not flinch. The man who cannot be interrupted. The man unreachable by every passing idea or foolish distraction. The man who, when asked to divide his focus, replies, "I am occupied with destiny." Carnegie once told me, "Concentration is my motto. First honesty, then industry, then concentration." That was no idle phrase. Carnegie built an empire not by chasing every opportunity, but by shutting the door on everything that did not serve his purpose. When distractions came, he listened politely, then returned to the furnace of his aim. Now I ask you, do you let every ringing bell, every trivial request, every impulse steal your mind? If so, your future is drained not by failure, but by distraction. Henry Ford built a revolution not by dabbling, but by simplifying. He refused to waste thought on the unnecessary. He didn't build 10 different cars. He built one car, and delivered it to the masses. When asked why only one model, he said, "You can have it in any color as long as it's black." Why? Because Ford wasn't seeking applause. He was seeking efficiency. He understood what few men ever learn. Focus is not limitation, it is liberation. He cut excess choices so his attention could focus on mastery. That, my friend, is a lesson you must take to heart. Your energy is your most precious currency. Every time you let your thoughts wander, react impulsively, or respond to distraction, you spend power that should be invested in your mission. Think of Thomas Edison working late in his lab, sometimes sleeping on a bench to avoid wasting a single hour. He didn't answer every call. He didn't entertain every idea. He worked, he focused, he created. When asked about his failures, he didn't lament. He said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That is the mindset of a man who is unavailable to distraction, a man who has closed his ears to doubt and opened his heart only to purpose. Now here's a practice to train your mind to obey purpose, not the world's noise. Each morning, before touching the outer world, before speaking or reading, before any noise reaches you, take 10 minutes of stillness. In that silence, speak your purpose aloud, from memory if you can. Then ask yourself just one question: what must I do today to honor this purpose? That question will shape your actions, silence the unnecessary, expose the foolish, and elevate the essential. Charles Schwab, who led U.S. Steel to immense power, understood this deeply. He worked from priority, not urgency. He trained his subordinates to bring only what was necessary, leaving the rest behind. His days were not governed by pressure, but by direction. And that must become your aim. You are not a creature of reaction. You are a man of vision. But if you are always reacting, always available, always shifting and answering, you will never build anything of weight. Power does not tolerate division. It demands allegiance. Let's be clear. Ambition paired with laziness is not always about physical effort. It's often mental drift, the laziness of untrained focus. You may feel busy, but that's not the same as being effective. The effective man is deliberate. He says no more than yes. He speaks less and builds more. He listens inward and shuts the window on outer noise. He eliminates the non-essential and repeats the essential until mastery becomes automatic. Let this be your rule. Nothing enters the temple of your mind that does not serve your highest purpose. Write it down. Speak it aloud. Post it where you'll see it, and when you must choose between dozens of average tasks and one essential movement, choose the essential. The world is full of busy men and poor men, but the man of wealth in mind, spirit, and fortune is the man of focus. Say it aloud. I do not divide my focus. I do not entertain distractions. My purpose is the loudest voice I hear. I'll leave you with this image. A man walking a tightrope cannot afford to glance at the crowd. He must keep his eyes fixed forward, steady, not because he fears falling, but because he has decided to cross. You are that man. Your future is the rope. Keep your eyes forward. Keep walking. Either you are practicing strength or you are rehearsing weakness. There is no middle ground. The ambitious yet lazy man has not failed because he lacks desire. He has failed because he has repeatedly disconnected from it. His dreams are vast, but his daily actions are small, scattered, misaligned, and driven by fleeting emotions. Over time, these tiny inconsistencies have ingrained themselves into the language of his subconscious mind. But here is the good news. Repetition can be rewritten. It can be redirected. It can be reclaimed. When I studied the lives of great men, Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Abraham Lincoln, Charles Schwab, I discovered not just stories of success, but tales of discipline, habits, mental patterns, and ritualistic behavior. None were flawless, but all were remarkably consistent in their routines, their inner dialogue, and their unwavering commitment to their vision, no matter how they felt. Let's start with Henry Ford, a man who transformed industry, not by chance, but by design. Every morning, he set out with a single goal: progress. Ford valued efficiency not only in machines, but in thought. He refined his thinking as meticulously as he improved his assembly line, eliminating clutter, sharpening focus, simplifying processes. That, my friend, is repetition with intention. Ford once said, "Thinking is the hardest work there is," which is probably why so few engage in it. He didn't mean aimless thought. He meant purposeful, structured thinking, born from rehearsing a clear objective, day after day. Now consider Thomas Edison, the ultimate master of failure. Why? Because he understood repetition better than anyone else I've known. Over 10,000 attempts to invent the light bulb, yet he never labeled himself a failure. Each experiment was a rehearsal, every trial part of a rhythm, grounded in a belief already embedded in his mind. Edison famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's more than resilience. That's a trained identity. A man who practices belief until failure loses its power. You must begin to practice the same way. Start every morning by declaring your belief aloud, not casually, not shyly, but as though your life depends on it, because it does. Practice your posture, shoulders back, eyes forward. Breathe like a man who owns his time. Walk with the confidence of someone unapologetic for his ambition. Make decisions swiftly. Speak with clarity. Act without announcing it. Let your discipline speak for itself. Practice the hard things, the uncomfortable things, because repetition turns difficulty into habit, and when hardship becomes your default, you become unstoppable. Now turn to Abraham Lincoln, a man forged not by privilege, but by principle. His presidency was shaped in the furnace of war, daily chaos, constant pressure. Yet Lincoln practiced silence, stillness, reflection, clarity, and long-term vision. Even when the world demanded noise and haste, his brilliance came not only from his intellect, but from rehearsed inner strength. A man of law, yes, but also a man governed by inner law. That is the foundation you must now build. Your outer world merely reflects your practiced inner world. To rewire laziness, don't wait for motivation. Build rhythm, build ritual, wake up consistently. Speak your laws, practice focus, eat like a builder, move like a warrior, write like a thinker, repeat it all over and over again. Don't chase novelty, chase identity. Charles Schwab, entrusted by Carnegie to lead U.S. Steel, was not the most technically skilled, but he was the most structured. He maintained a short list of high-priority tasks. He trained his men to master fundamentals, ignore noise, and in doing so became indispensable. You must do the same. Don't add more. Do less, but better. Repeat with excellence. Don't depend on emotions. Train rhythm. Don't wait for the right feeling to start. Repeat until it feels natural. You are not weak. You have simply practiced weakness. But now you will practice power. Say it aloud. I repeat strength until strength becomes second nature. I train my mind through rhythm, not mood. My identity is shaped by what I rehearse. Let these words become your daily laws. Repetition isn't glamorous, but it's sacred. It's the invisible force behind every empire. It's the tool every man who rose from obscurity to greatness has wielded. Repeat this speech daily. Repeat your laws nightly. Repeat your belief endlessly. Soon, when you look in the mirror, the man you see will no longer be the old you. You will see the man who was always there beneath the dust of inconsistency, waiting for repetition to uncover him. Let us now conclude this journey, not in silence or doubt, but with certainty so profound it cannot be shaken. My friend, if you have listened to every word of this message, you are no longer the person you were at the start. You've crossed a threshold. A line has been drawn between the man who wishes to change and the man who refuses to wait another second to live it. Let's be clear. Laziness is not your nature. It is not a curse or an identity. It's simply the result of drift. And drift, once identified, can be burned away. You don't need a new dream. You need new patterns. You don't need more motivation. You need repetition on fire. You don't need another day to think. You need to act. You've been taught by the examples of Carnegie, who installed belief like a mechanic installs steel. Ford, who practiced certainty until doubt disappeared. Edison, who failed 10,000 times without surrender. Lincoln, who carried a divided nation with stillness and principle. Schwab, who commanded giants through clarity and rhythm. These men were not born with your technology. They didn't enjoy the comforts of your era, but they shared one thing: decision. And once they decided, they repeated that decision with such discipline that the universe had no choice but to respond. So now I command you, repeat this speech. Not once, but until its words become your nature. Repeat it every morning before the world attempts to shape your thoughts. Repeat it each night when the day tries to pull you away from your fire. Most importantly, repeat your own laws daily. Every morning, speak one of your 10 laws aloud. Let it seep into your bloodstream. Let it become your compass. Let it shape your identity, and never stop. Not when it's hard, not when you're tired, not when the fire dims, because repetition is how giants are made, how dynasties rise, how laziness is unlearned and power is installed. You are not a drifter. You are not a procrastinator. You are a man who decides. Say it now with full conviction. I repeat power. I rehearse purpose. I act without permission. I was not made to wait. I was made to build. This is the man I am, and I do not look back. Now you know the mind must be shaped. You know power must be practiced. And you know the man you are becoming depends on what you repeat. Walk in that repetition, walk in that fire, and let the world watch as you become unrecognizable.